augmentation system and ground-based augmentation system. But we are touching the point. We are touching the point because Galileo to come in Europe.
Well, that's the fourth big one now. That's Galileo.
I maintained it last, absolutely, but not least, is the real answer to the civilian application.
So what will be different about Galileo?
Usually people begin discussing about technicalities, the characteristics of the signal. They usually say that Galileo will have much more accuracy. This is true and not true, because at the end the performances will be comparable with that of GPS of second generation. Right. People usually say that the performance of the signal are such to grant a better indoor navigation, which is one of the big, well-known problems of this GNSS. In my mind, at least my judgment is the real difference is in the security and safety provision. What does it mean? Security means integrity. So the capability to inform the user that the signal is good or not, that you are doing a proper fix or a wrong fix. And this is of vital importance in all the civilian activities. One has in mind, first of all, not perhaps the ocean application, but the airborne application, the navigation of the airplanes. But this is true, evidently, also for any application in the maritime environment. Second, the safety, this one. The security is related to the capability of encrypting, playing the keys, having services that being addressed to a civilian professional user or a civilian governmental institution are properly protected. And this, in my mind, are the two issues that have to characterize the civilian system. And the very first civilian system will be Galileo. In 2013...
Some very rude questions to you then. Number one, I know that no one here is a political person on it, but tell me a little bit, or tell us all a little bit about, is there any tension between the civilian and military uses? Second, when you say things are encrypted, does this mean that you're planning to charge people for certain services? Is this also supposed to be an industrial profit-making center? And third, who will have access for ocean usage of Galileo?
So, big questions, Maria.
He wasn't expecting those.
The first one, is there any tension between the military...
Civilian-military usage?
I don't think so. Because again, the system is conceived as dual use. The difference is in the initial conception of the system. While at the beginning GPS is being conceived having in mind military specs, Galileo is being conceived having in mind civilian specs. But at the end, the operational result will be a dual use system. So a system that in practice fits very well also for military or, let me say, paramilitary application. In fact, there is a family of services foreseen in the business plan, the so-called PRS, Public Regulated Services, that in practice are addressed directly to the governmental institution and why not to the military environment. So I don't see in practice any practical divergence of opinion, and as a consequence, I don't see any potential tension between the two environments. The second question, if I well understood, is
yes, if you're encrypted
services means somebody has to pay for it, for sure, for sure. But the business plan of Galileo is conceived in a wide way. So not only the free of charge services, the so-called open services, but also the commercial and the PRS I was mentioning before. So there is a wide spectrum in the business plan able to cover not only the consumer need and but also the professional need. But for sure, when you have a guarantee of a service level, this is the key point. When there is a service level agreement and there is an entity granting you the level of service that is going to offer to you, then by definition, I think you have to pay. It's unavoidable.
Huh?
The third one,
just
sorry,
as long as we know these things. And the use of Galileo for ocean survey, is it going to be relevant?
There is, in the Galileo business plan, the maritime segment is, let me say, very big, is 15 to 20%. Just to mention some applications, even if they would be rather obvious to everybody in this room. For example, the automatic identification systems, the vessel fleet management, the search and rescue. The Galileo satellites have on board a COSPAS SARSAT compatible transponder which will complement in a wide way the COSPAS SARSAT search and rescue network. With an important plus, the return channel. So the user, after issuing the rescue request, is alerted through a data channel in the navigation system that the rescue signal has been received and is being processed. Then there are other applications identified, like, for example, precision docking, harbor operations, and then, of course, everything is related to marine engineering, identification of certain place, fisheries, identification of undersea cables and things like that.
Well,
but the applications are...
We'll have to ask our panelists, and Rick, come in anytime you want, whether these aspects related to the oceans are already covered by other systems, or is this going to take things to another level? So that's something we'd be very pleased to hear from all of you. And we will not get into the perennial discussion about GPS not being in European hands.